Hey, what's up everybody? This is Erica from the Classy Climb blog. I just had to do this video because I saw Bigger Pockets and they were interviewing a guy from Wisconsin. He's outside of Madison, Wisconsin, near Jamestown, Wisconsin. Anyway, the point of the story is he has been picking up $50,000 houses. $35,000 to $50,000 houses. Now, a few years ago, people said, oh, these are terrible houses. They're in war zones. They're awful. They're terrible. They're garbage. Well, here's the funny thing. It's starting to become mainstream because a guy or girl who works their butt off, and again, I keep telling you guys about saving $27 a day. Oh, at the end of next year, you'll have $10,000. Now, what do? He invests that $10,000 into properties near on the edges of Madison that are rentals, $35,000 rentals, $50,000 rentals, and puts a little work into them and turns around and rents them out. So for anywhere from $650 to $900, right? A little less, I think, in that Wisconsin area. But that's the key. Like, that's affordability, right? Even a guy or girl who has, who has a tax refund of $5,000, $8,000 can turn around and own one of these properties. It's not super over the top expensive. And there's more and more rural areas and places in North Carolina where I'm at now, where I'm using this location to invest because, and a place in Maryland and a place in Indianapolis because they're so cheap. You can get the house for very cheap. You can get the turnaround and clean it up for very cheap. And they're not war zones. They are just on the edges of being urban places where people live, where people just live on the edge of town. We all know towns like that, where a lot of people work in the city, drive 20 minutes in, but they live on the edge of town. They live on the edge of the country, as we call it. And that's important. That's important for people to know that those aren't war zones. Those are just normal houses. Now, what does make me mad, or sad to a degree, is that a lot of people in lower economic positions aren't seeing it that way. They aren't seeing the fact that instead of, $10,000 down, because that's 20% for some of these properties, they could get into that same property for 3%. Or no money down because they're on the edge, USDA loans. There's a lot of that in Texas right now. There's a lot of that in parts of North Carolina. And you'd be amazed at people getting these really huge homes and putting like $1,000 down. And some people in some areas putting no money down, just paying closing cost. If you're serious about wanting to own a home, or you're in a position where you think you could own a home, you should look into it. Look into your area. Go on a place like Bigger Pockets. Read the material, get the information, and then decide for yourself. Like, is this a good deal or is it not? There are many people who have picked up houses for $30,000, turn around and rent them out for $700 to somebody for years. People have children, they work, they sometimes are in lower income, working family positions, and they just don't branch out and buy a house for years. Or they're just working. And it's just, I want to make sure that people understand that a few years ago, a few people on Bigger Pockets kept coming out and just trashing several people who were saying you could buy a $30,000 house and it not be a war zone. You could buy a $30,000 house and it'd be okay. Because everyone's looking for that appreciation where this house is now turned around and it's worth $100,000. That's just not going to happen for everybody. It's just really not. Some of these houses will always be in that $30,000 to $70,000 range just because of the environment, just because of the city, just because of the town that it's in. And I think it's important that people don't, sit there and wait too late, right? There's one of the guys they were interviewing, he was buying a portfolio from a guy who was selling 18 houses. Imagine that, 18 houses renting out for $700 in one little town or one little area. It's so important for you to kind of not glance over that and say, wow, that guy's been picking them up left and right, left and right. And there's many people I meet when I go to real estate investing clubs and conferences who are in their 60s and 70s and have been doing this for years. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you buy one house a year, at the end of 10 years, depending on what your rental price is or what your market is, if those houses are renting out for $800 a month, you got $8,000 or so dollars coming in, you're in a different level of income. If the average American is making $31,000 a year and you've got 10 rentals because you bought one a year and you're making anywhere from $100,000 to $60,000, you just off the rentals, not even talking about your job, you're already in a whole different level from many Americans. I mean, I remember reading the article and the statistic that if you buy just 3 homes, you're outside the range of an average American. Because there are Americans who make a little bit more money, they're white collar and they have a house, then they have a mountain house or they have a beach house. and it's their second home. That's not uncommon. That you can even go on your local credit union's website and see a second home mortgage application, right? Where it's not the first home, you're not living there full time, it's a second. Well, what's happening is a lot of these people, if they're smart with those second homes, have talked to their teenagers or their grown adult children who are coming back from college and go, what can I do to make money off that house instead of just selling it? And a lot of those people are renting those out, HomeAway, Airbnb, all those good things, which is still good. But anyway, back to the total topic, $30,000 to $50,000 houses and that going mainstream. I think that's so important for that to go mainstream because affordability is the key. We don't want people going out there and running up huge credit lines of credit and huge credit card debt to go get in these houses and hear them try to refinance them to get money out of them. We don't want people doing that. We want people doing slow, steady, hard assets. And, they're predicting next year a stock market crash, which I'm not surprised. It's just time. 2017, it will just be the time if you look at charts and graphs. That people that are still investing in rentals, guess what? Their tenants are still paying. Their tenants are still working that food job. Their tenants are still working as low-level CNAs or RNs, or their rental people are still teachers and police officers and cops. They're still renters, and if you notice in some people rentals, they're getting more people, 2 and 3 people living together. So they're still going to get their rent money, and I think that's something you need to notice as far as why that is becoming mainstream now. Because there's like a lot of those homes available, and people know. They just know it's a good investment. The guy in Wisconsin knows it's a good investment. Lisa Phillips knows they're great investments in Virginia, parts of Virginia. Paula Pant, who bought one house for $20,000 off HUD, she knew it was a great investment, rents it out for $900 in Atlanta. There's several people, we can list them all day and night, who have made great investments in the $30,000 to $50,000 range. So, everybody, this is Erica, Classy Climb Blog. Thank you guys for watching.